want to lose. I want to win.
I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly, sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is easy sports data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
Money talk. Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz, joined as always by Blackhawk West from 151 Sports Investing and John from GMF Sports Consultants. And so far, so good. We have had some issues today, technological issues, but right now it sounds like we're doing good and nobody's yelling at me, so I'm thinking we're okay. But let's get an update. We'll start with John. Let's get an update on your content.
All right. I got it.
Yes. So we're going to give us an update on your Circa contest.
Gotcha. Yeah, Circa was good. We finished the week 4-1, so we are now 10-5 total for the first 3 weeks, which is pretty good. That's 67%. So I'm happy with that. There's only one person left. That's perfect. I think there's only 15-0. So I'm happy with where I'm at right now. Hopefully those top guys will kind of fall back down to earth and we can kind of catch up here over these next couple of weeks. But so far, so good.
Blackhawk West, we had talked about that it's very difficult to maintain that pace, especially with the NFL.
It is. And, this past week, looking at the Circa standings, they fell off. There was, I think, 15 guys that were undefeated, and now we're down to 1. So, John is absolutely owning the NFL right now. I mean, he really is. Especially some of his plays are coming from games that nobody would even look at, and he's picking the winner. But I'm sitting at, the way I'm looking at it is there's chunks of where you sit, because there's so many players that are tied up. So I mean, I'm tied with 2,000 other people in that 5 seed. So I'm not doing as well as John. I'm sitting right at 7 and 8, but 3-2, 3-2, 4-1. You throw a few of those together, and here in about 2 or 3 weeks, it should level itself out, and only the strong survive, kind of thing. So I'm tied with a bunch of people sitting in 5th. So I'm looking to gain some ground. I
can't argue with the logic. The bottom line is if after 3 or 4 weeks your head is above 500, that's all you could be. You just sit there. You're going to draft. You're going to have to go through a lot. There's a lot of season left. There really is. And unlike fantasy, where week 17 doesn't count, fantasy doesn't, but it counts a lot in Vegas, in the Vegas contest. That's for darn sure. All right, so live action. When we were dealing with beginning, Blackhawk West, you mentioned the Virginia game.
Yeah, this is one John and I both like together. We were exchanging messages earlier. We're both on Virginia first half over 13.5. And there was some questions about De'Ara King, whether or not he would play. And the fact that he's not playing, I like the idea of Virginia getting a couple more touches. So they're on the board 7-0. And that's where we sit right now. There's about 9 minutes to go in the first quarter. So we got an entire half to cash this. It may happen here in the first quarter. And
Miami's coming off the sound trouncing of Central Connecticut. What the hell are they doing playing Central Connecticut? What am I missing here? But I would imagine for
that's a tough schedule one right there.
Right, but if it's August, right, and you're getting back to school and you play football at Central Connecticut, you got that Saturday circled. You did. You're playing Miami. There's guys that maybe are pretty good on Central Connecticut that didn't get a sniff to go to Miami, but 49-0 at halftime was the score. 69-0 at halftime. They're not playing Central Connecticut tonight, so it'll be interesting to see. I think that you guys have got a great start. That game did nothing for me, and then I thought to myself, let me watch a little bit and see. It's just early. We've got the NFL games starting, so we're going to have 2 games by the end of this show. We're going to have 2 games that we could have action on before the end of the night. You guys are already on that first half team total over for Maryland. Yep. What about the NFL games? Are either of you on that already? John?
No, same thing as Wes said. We were kind of talking. There was not really much on this slate that I liked tonight. It was just, I was torn on both the college game and the NFL game. You know, Wes kind of opened my eyes to that total, which I like just because kind of going back to that, Virginia has a pretty solid QB. So I felt comfortable with that. But this NFL game, I like Cincy. I just don't like the points. So I'm bowing out on that one. This is a tough Thursday game. These Thursday matchups, I don't know how many weeks in a row now we've griped about these Thursday games, but it's getting up there. I'm staying away. I might look for an in-game opportunity, maybe on Cincinnati, just because I like them. I think they're starting to click a little bit better this year. But I'm personally bowing out. I'll just keep an eye on maybe some in-game for Cincy. That's about it for me.
Yeah, I have used the game in a contest because I have, Thursday and Monday Night Football contest that I'm in where you got to pick the total, and I went 34-17, the favorite, because that's what I picked.
Yeah,
and I picked that mostly because I'm looking at the Easy Sports data, which I use. Now, the Easy Sports data really isn't designed to pick exact scores, but it does well for me, so I cannot complain, because if you get the score right, you're usually hitting both the side and the total. I mean, right? It's really hard to come close to picking the final score and not hitting both, unless it's right on the number. And so that's how it, occasionally it'll be where, the line is 50 and the data shows right about 50. Then I'm going to back off and just stick with the side. But I do have a play. I have a live play. John, I got to tell you a story about betting live action against the Padres last night. So I saw it was 5-0. I had a parlay with the Mariners and the Yankees on the run line. Mm-hmm. And it was 5-0, and I don't know, the Seattle was covering too. So I was in good place. And next year I know it's 5-5, and then it's 9-5 the Padres. So I went to, that's gone. I moved on with my life. I have a life, Sometimes the plays go bad. You don't usually hang around. But in this case, I hung around a little bit. I said, what the hell? And then Mookie Betts hits a home run, I think, make it 9-6. So, okay, now I'm taking them to win at +4 something. And then somebody else hits a home run. Say, okay, now I'm going to go back to the money line, which I had originally. And if you know the final score, it was really pretty cool. But I hooked them all up to Cincinnati first half. So I am on Cincinnati first half. In terms of the college game, it just, again, it did nothing for me. But as we go forward, we'll go ahead and see what happens. I just know that Miami just played Central Connecticut, so anybody's going to be better than that. Anybody. All right, so let's talk about CFL. So there's a real good shot there is no to be determined this weekend due to those technical difficulties. But we're going to talk to Blackhawk West because there is a game tomorrow, correct?
There is a game tomorrow, and you got to tune in Saturday to get the Saturday plays in the CFL. But
remember that here's the iffy thing. There's probably not going to be a Saturday show because it didn't work. The audio is all messed up. So what we're probably going to do is I'll give those plays out at 8 o'clock. Because I wrote down what you took. So, but let's not talk about those games because we still want them to.
Yeah. So
Saturday morning.
Yeah. So the game we're looking at tomorrow is Winnipeg and BC. And this is a great game. BC is coming off just a heartbreaking loss that Sask scored, with 2 seconds to go on the clock, and then they turned around and took a fumble 6 back on the kickoff. But BC is a fantastic team, and you've mentioned it a couple times, the easy data and what it shows BC to be from a defensive standpoint in the second half. So you look at Winnipeg, who they have 2 of the top 5 sackers on the same defense in the entire CFL with Jeff Coat and Jefferson. So if you take both of these teams and you total the amount of points they score and the amount of points they allow, both of them average under 40 when you put those two numbers together. They don't score a ton, although they can, and they don't allow a ton. So my play on this game, I'm not going to try and pick who wins. I'm going under 53 for the game total. I think it's going to be a tough fought game. I think the quarterbacks can do some damage. I think there's going to be some turnovers. It's going to be hard for either team to go the distance. And so my play on this Winnipeg BC game is going to be under 53 total.
Yeah, going into that loss where they gave up that late touchdown, we had talked about how few points they'd given up. They'd given up 25 points in 6 games. They gave up 22 points the other day. So I would imagine a good defense is not going to hang around after getting. Now, one of those, they didn't give up 22 because, a quarter of those weren't their fault. Anytime a team gives up points and it comes from special teams or turnovers, things like that, it's not necessarily against the defense. But the bottom line is they gave 25 up and they gave up 22 in one game. You would think they would bounce back from that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and the defense, Winnipeg's offense is not as good as what they just faced in Sask. Winnipeg's offense can dictate tempo because of how good their defense is, and they have a very good run game. But Winnipeg's offense is not the most explosive in the CFL.
So let me ask you this: Friday night, it's a quiet night for college week. I think there's only 3 games.
Yep.
We're getting to the point where the weekdays are going to get busier with college football. But between the college games that are on and that CFL game, what will you watch more of?
Well, so it's going to be a 3-screen night for me for sure, because I also am invested in the Iowa-Maryland game. The Iowa-Maryland game, I'm looking at it and I'm feeling game totals, which I normally pick winners, but I'm looking at the game totals. Maryland can put up points. Iowa has they're averaging right around 31 points a game. Tagovailoa can sling the ball. This is not Tua. This man has an arm that is way better than Big Brother, who's playing in Miami right now. But he throws interceptions. He's thrown 7 interceptions on the season, I believe is the number. And Iowa loves to take the ball away and put it in the back of the end zone. So I look at this game. Maryland doesn't have the best defense, although they can score points. 48 on this. That's another one where you look at what the teams are averaging as far as points, and each team is averaging 25, 30 points a game. Plus Iowa's got a defense. Their defense will probably put 7 on the board. So I'm going to be watching that Iowa-Maryland game, and I'm going over 47.5 for that game on top of the CFL game that I'm watching. So full participation points for everybody in that game. Yeah,
well, the bottom line is, I don't know if you sat there in August and said these teams are both going to be 4-0, if I would have believed you. I don't think I would have. I really don't think I would have. However, Iowa doesn't give up points. I mean, the bottom line, they're an under machine. They have been for 2 years now, I think. Let's see. Let me look. I'm looking at the Easy Sports data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many games they played this year? 5. No, they played 4 games this year. So they got unders going back to – they haven't had an over yet this year. They played Colorado State, Kent State. That Iowa State was a good game. Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin, we thought they were a little better than they are, but Iowa has dominated. But they're not, like you said, they don't score a bazillion points because they don't have to. And there's not that kind of offense. I mean, they've been tight end central, right? They talk about the tight end school they had, right? What do they call it? Tight end U or something?
TEU.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Lately, Iowa's been tight end factory because they're sending a lot of tight ends to the NFL. And now, John, will there be a point on Saturdays where you'll be betting college football, or is it a week by week thing? Or
yeah, no, I tend to take college football almost. I don't want to say play by play, but as the day moves on, determines our participation in college football. I'll throw a play out for the early stuff, and if we do good, then I'll continue to kind of trickle it on down through the rest of the day for college football. Still gaining knowledge and still just watching film and tape and getting used to certain teams. So my bets will start increasing little by little as the weeks go on for college, but still just kind of taking it day by day main focus right now is NFL.
Yeah, when we use that Easy Sports data, you realize how messed up last year was, because when you're looking at last year and this year, there's some teams that got the 5 games from this year or 4 games from this year, and there's some teams that have 5 games last year or 2 games last year. There's nobody that has 16 games for both the years. So it really is it's still early, but it's the same with the NFL. I'm only now starting to feel comfortable enough to raise my units a little bit, and because you're gonna see stuff happening. But like John with your picks, 10-5, 2-1. The bottom line is, if you're banging 2-1, you're gonna do okay. Especially a lot of times on that 2-1, we talk about it with Wes. You're winning more bets than that 2-1. You could have the game where you lost, you were losing it early, you just walked away from it. And the game that you won, you hit 5 times.
Yep.
So in that respect, those records are not necessarily, 100% accurate in terms of telling you the big picture. You know what I'm saying? All right. So where are we at? We talked to CFL schedule for Wes. Let's talk to Wes about Saturday's games. There's a couple big games. Now, I'm going to be quite frank with you, Blackhawk West. I haven't really done my handicapping, but because of the fact that there's only one game tonight that I looked at and a couple games tomorrow, I'm in pretty good shape by Saturday. So by the time the 3 of us are talking Saturday morning, I'll have some winners out there. But for right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna listen to what you have to say, and then I'm going to talk about some of the data that I have on some of the teams that are still perfect so far this year. Now, perfect is perfect for me. They may be 0-4 against the spread, but for me, if I'm betting against them, that's a perfect team. Talk to me about Saturday.
Saturday, there's a lot going on, and there's some risky stuff out there. I've advised the members that this Arkansas and Georgia game, I see it going 2 ways. There's only 2 outcomes. I believe, and I'm not touching the game just because this Arkansas team, they very much feel like the miracle win Auburn team, the Nick Marshall led kick 6, miracle Hail Mary. I mean, they very much feel like that team from a few years ago. So Arkansas, I think, is capable of anything. Georgia is phenomenal. I mean, Georgia is really unreal to watch. I'm very surprised by how good they're playing. Their defense is, I think they're number 1 in the country against the rush, and they're top 10 as far as the rush goes. But so that particular game, I see it going 2 ways: either Arkansas money line or Georgia covers the spread. I don't think that Georgia will win by 7 or 6 even. So if you are of the belief that Arkansas is going to cover the spread, just go ahead and money line it, because I think that that's the only way that happens. Something completely breaks down and Arkansas gets some breaks. But the other one, the one that I'm in, for significant unit, and it's one of our baseline plays. I'm going back to Air Force this week. Air Force.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
We had them in the first half. We had them for the game. We only laid 3.5 last week, and they're laying 10 again this week. But again, they're going up against a team that Air Force is stopping the pass and rushing well. So they're not giving you any time to possess, and they're running the ball down your throat. So laying 10 on Air Force, that feels great. These marquee games, the Bama Ole Miss game, I could see it going either way. Be a fan. I don't advise picking that game. Betting against Alabama could be very bad for a human's health and heart rate. But at the same time, I could see Ole Miss keeping pace with them. So those 2 marquee games I'm staying away from. But our play for Saturday is Air Force. We're laying 10. Yeah,
that was just such an easy of winners, and they're playing New Mexico. Come on, New Mexico's been pretty poor for 2-3 years now, right? I mean, well, we're talking really poor. The only reason they win a game, I think, is they play New Mexico State their Thanksgiving every year. So that 10 points, and that's a road game, but that 10 points doesn't scare me at all. I do want to get back to the Georgia game, because it is, oh my goodness gracious, everyone and their sister seems to be on this Razorback bandwagon, right? And the Georgia now this week is playing who again?
Georgia is playing Arkansas.
Yeah. Georgia's given up 20 points this year. 20 points. So that's the good reason why they're giving 3 touchdowns. They've given up 20 points all year. Who's Alabama playing again?
Bama's playing against Ole Miss, and it's in Alabama. And depending on where you look, it's 14.5, it's 15.5. And they were showing the interesting stat. Nick Saban is 32-0 against his former assistants. This one's This is a different assistant, though. This is the guy that installed the offense that you now see for Bama. And
exactly.
So this is a hard one. And Ole Miss always, like, Ole Miss beat them a couple years ago, even though it was a different coach, different team. I mean, it's just the logo going into Tuscaloosa does something to them.
And the bottom line is Ole Miss is scoring some points this year.
Best offense in the country at this point.
Yeah.
But over 40, something like that so far this year. Yeah. And they've always put up good numbers against Alabama in the previous meetings. They're definitely not shying away from them on the offensive side of the ball. So it should be a great game to watch. I'm with Wes on this one. Kind of watch it and be a fan.
And that over, what's that over? It's almost 80, isn't it? You know, Blackhawk West, what that over is?
Yeah, the over, last I looked, it was 79.5. I mean, that's on an SEC game. I mean, that is like, crazy. That's Mahomes against Baker Mayfield, Texas Tech, against Oklahoma type stuff. 80 points in an SEC game, just run.
Yeah, no, so here's, Miami's playing tonight. They played Alabama. Alabama then played Mercer. Florida put up 9 in the first half. Southern Miss put up 7 in the first half. That's the problem. You could do all you want with the offense, but as we've talked about, these are kids that Alabama, the whole defense, went to the NFL last year. Now these guys got, a couple of games under their belt. These are the guys that are going to the NFL next year. I mean, that's how it works at Alabama. By this time in the season, I don't care how many points, it's going to be like betting soccer. You know, in soccer, you can bet draw, no bet. So you can bet team A, a draw, or team B, or you can bet different odds and just say, if there's a draw, I get my money back. Well, the way I bet Alabama is I'm either betting Alabama, especially at home, or I ain't betting the game. It's that simple. There's no way I'm putting money on Ole Miss before this game kicks off. But we'll see what happens. All right, so when we get back from break, what is going to happen? We got quite a few things happening. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly. It's on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, and on the Sports Betting Channel.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthin'. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah, welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. I am joined by John from GMF Sports Consultant. He would be technically on the bottom of your screen. And Wes, Blackhawk Wes, we call him, from 151 Sports Investing. He would be on the right of your screen. Hey, so let's look at a few things. Right now, I'm going to ask John for his top 2 scoring NFL teams. If he needed points, who would he go with right now?
As far as just numbers, totals, points scored?
2 teams that you think, you know what, right this year when I hear that name, I think of points.
Oh, man, that's the Raiders. I'll throw the Raiders up because that's my home team, and I watch them. And then I'm going to throw Arizona Cardinals up there too.
There you go. Blackhawk West, same question.
I would go Green Bay because they can explode at any moment, and that quarterback of theirs, I mean, he can play a video game with the entire league. And then I'm going with the Rams. The Rams haven't even gotten to a place where they're peaking with what they can do with Stafford. McVay, he's got this shiny new toy. So I go with the Rams and the Packers. And I agree with the ones that John said. Statistically, the Raiders are it.
Yeah, the Raiders have a lot of zeros when you look at the Easy Sports data. But So far this year, the Rams and Tampa Bay are the only teams that are perfect over. Now, the one thing about point spreads in the NFL is that it's not like college. That curve, the bell curve, okay? When you're looking at regular season records, you could have the 14-2, 13-3 teams. You're not going to see that very often against the spread because Vegas is very good at what they do. And we've looked at it year in and year out. 75 to 80% of those teams are between 8-6 or whatever 16 is. And so 9-5, 9-5, and 5-9 against the spread. Which, don't get me wrong, if you're 9-5, you're going to win some money. But it's not like when we talk about it all the time. You come home and tell somebody you're 10-2, they're going to ask you to buy you something in your house. Your wife's going to say, hey, you know what? Let's go to dinner. Your son's going to say, Dad, can I get that new bike? 9-5, you just live to breathe another day, really, sometimes, depending on the odds. But what you're looking at with those teams is every single game this year the Rams has played has gone over. Every single game Tampa Bay has played has gone over as well. However, there's a lot of teams that are perfect under. John, guess one of these teams. There's 7 teams in the NFL right now that every single game has gone under.
New York Jets. And
Who they playing?
Yeah. Well, this week they play the Titans. I'd have to go with the Jets. I mean, I've seen them put up 0. They're
on the list. They're on the list.
Yeah, and then as far as I'm trying to think for another under team.
Well, you had an easy winner with this team last week, and they shut out the team they played. Broncos.
Now I have to go back and think about.
No, Broncos.
Oh, Broncos. Yeah. Broncos. Yeah, their defense is. Yep.
You want to guess another 2? These teams, every single game, if you bet the under, you won this year so far. Wes, you want to guess 2 more?
Yeah, I'm going to guess the Bears and the Colts.
No, you've got the Chargers.
Wow.
You got Carolina. You got New Orleans, Pittsburgh, and New England. New England, in hindsight, probably, that was one of those.
Yeah.
But a few of those other ones are not necessarily obvious, So there's 3 teams that are perfect. We have mentioned one of them so far. You might know this. This is the one that most people know. The teams that are perfect against the spread. But the ones I look at are the other ones, the ones that are over, under, or losers. But there are 3 teams that are perfect this year. John, we mentioned one already.
Yeah, I think you would have to go to the Denver Broncos and then the Raiders.
No. Second, you want to guess? There's 2 more on there, Blackhawk. He can make a game show out of this, right?
No, this is fun. I like it.
We're talking perfect against the spread?
Correct. There's only 3 NFL teams that are currently perfect against the spread.
So I'm gonna say the Rams.
No, it's Carolina and Dallas.
Wow.
Dallas, I think we knew because they were just recently on TV.
Yeah.
But Carolina, yeah. Remember Carolina? They scored that late touchdown on the cover.
Yep.
And then there's 4 teams. One of them, John knows, that haven't covered once this year. And actually, John,
I
from
think
GMF Sports Consultants and Blackhawk West from 151 Sports Investing, they have a mutual thing with this team.
Yeah, I think you could probably, if you're going as far as bad stats for the NFL, you can probably put the New York Jets almost in every category.
Yeah,
and
Kansas City is what I was thinking of.
Kansas City, that's what I was going to go. If you bet against the Chiefs and take the points, you will be a happy person for the entire season. You may not win very many money lines, but you will get covers.
And you were at the recent game, correct?
I was at the recent game.
Okay. That was a tough game to lose.
It was a tough game to lose. It was a tough game to watch. It was a tough walk back to the car. The stadium was very quiet.
So let me ask you, before we get to the other team, which one is the Jets? There's 2 more on there that are perfect for the season if you're betting against them. And I have no problem betting against somebody. I find that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm still looking for a couple of those college teams because UConn and UMass, all of a sudden, they're starting to win a couple games, mostly because sooner or later you gotta, don't you? I mean, golly gee. And I'm looking for those teams like the last year's Coastal Carolina, and they treated me well again this week. But so there are two more teams that are perfect, but they've lost, and one of them plays tonight.
Is it Cincinnati?
Gotta
Nope.
be the Jags. No, Cincinnati covered against the Bengals last week, so it's got to be the Jags. Yeah.
Oh no! Cincinnati beat somebody, right?
Yeah, Cincinnati beat the Bengals outright. Yeah.
No. Cincinnati is the Bengals.
They beat the brakes off of Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry. Cincinnati beat the Steelers outright.
Yeah, we have a show called Wake and Bake. You guys got to go easy on me, man. I don't have that show just because I have that show. I like that show.
Yeah.
It might be my favorite show.
Yeah,
but anyway, and the other team is the Washington football team.
Football team.
Shouldn't shock anybody because that's the division that West wants nothing to do with.
Yeah.
All right. That game has started. So here's the thing. I'm looking at what do you guys need in the Virginia game?
We need a touchdown as of right now.
How many points did you need?
13 and a hook.
Yeah, they're at 9.
So you don't need the extra point anymore.
Yeah, no, we just need a 6 on the board. That's it.
It says 9, so that's a safety, right?
Yeah, they got a safety, and they haven't really moved the ball much. But there's still a lot of time in this second quarter. It's going to be tough for Miami with the two freshman quarterback. Like I said, a lot of people looked at that number for Miami, but they forgot that they played, poor Central Connecticut last week. So I think this number probably got inflated a little bit. Like I said, Virginia's quarterback is probably in the talks, to be highly drafted this year, NFL caliber quarterback back there. So defense is an issue, but I like Virginia, and I think they'll get the score here before the end of the half.
Well, the bottom line is, if you got the over in that game, you are not in a good place to be.
Oh, definitely. Not at all.
That over is really, really high.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's happened in the NFL game? Anything, Blackhawk West?
The NFL game is 0-0. It's at a commercial break right now, but a number that I was looking at, obviously not anything on the game, but I was looking at Jacksonville over half a point for the first quarter. That's an interesting play, especially if you got some WTF UVA winnings.
Yeah, that's in live action, correct?
Yeah, that's in live action, and Cincinnati is 1st and 10 on their own 9. So it depends on how quick they score. But John and I both like Jacksonville for the game and the plus 7.5 in the Circa. So if they're going to do that, one would think they got to put something on the board in the first quarter.
Yeah, no, definitely, no doubt about it. And really, there's very few ways. This isn't Canadian football. There's very few ways in the NFL to score and not get over a half a point. Like none. You got to do it. So, all right. So let's look at this Virginia-Miami game for the over, because obviously that 60-something isn't going to happen. So it's dropped now to 47 for the game. It's down to 47. And the over-under on Virginia for the game, for the first half, is at 15.5, guys. And you got, 13.5, you said?
Yeah.
That's it. They like a touchdown there too. And so we're gonna see about this pro game. In terms of the pro game for some live action, because I've got the first half, but that's all I've done because, again, it's Thursday Night Football, and like John said, and it's not been this. They'll throw us a good one, right, every so often. But traditionally, over the last 4 or 5 years, Thursday Night Football is some ugly, ugly ass football.
It's been brutal, tough watch. Yeah.
All right, so let's look at this. Jacksonville for the first half, it's over 7.5, like you said. For the first quarter, actually, it just bounced off my screen. So whenever that happens, I'm usually figuring something happens. Like last night with that Dodger game. Every time you went to go live action, they hit another home run. So you had to be very seldom. It reminded me, Blackhawk West, of that playoff run you had with Major League Baseball where you were catching 6-run innings and just adding half every time and cashing 5 and 6 plays in an inning, you know?
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And I always like baseball because of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great memory. Are you kidding me? For the first quarter right now, let's see here if they are showing that points. They've got the total 6.5. Doesn't have. I'm not getting that play, but I think I'm going to sit tight. I may at halftime. We'll still be on the air. I think at halftime, and unfortunately, I want to send a shout out to the guys at Loudmouths because they won't be on after us, and hopefully they're all feeling better and getting well soon. So we're running. We get to run without having to worry about getting off the air tonight, which a few minutes anyway. But so we'll be sitting there, able to probably still get a couple bets in. I'm not ready to pull a trigger, which guys, I'm not ready to. My buddies will tell you I'm not afraid to bet on anything, man. But I'm going to sit tight and mellow out. So let's do this. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to play the same game. Who's perfect? And there's going to be, and we're going to do it for the NCAA. And I'm telling you right now, there are 2, 4, 6. There are 10 different teams in the NCAA that are probably having the long ass seasons of their lives, but they're perfect if you're betting against them. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
At championshipfootballs.com, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a New England Patriots fan or an Ohio State Buckeyes backer. Maybe Grams is a lifelong New York Giants supporter. Or your brother-in-law is a 12th man living in Seattle. Know a member of the Michigan State Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Baltimore Ravens fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, they're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggies or Tulane Green Wave alumnus, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season, footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Hey, this is an important message. I'm Second Half Chaz from Sports Betting Weekly. Sports betting is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're hurting yourself by gambling with money you don't have, check out our website for the Gamblers Anonymous phone number.
When Vince Young scored on 4th and 5 in the 2006 Rose Bowl, two things happened. The Texas Longhorns won the NCAA title, and ChampionshipFootballs.com was born. From Texas to Alabama to Ohio State, and now for Super Bowl winners too. ChampionshipFootballs.com is the place for the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, 10 years later, ChampionshipFootballs.com has the autographs too. See if any of these names remind you of a special time in your football life. Michael Bennett, Lou Holtz, Joe Montana, Devin Smith, Jameis Winston, Rocky Blyer, Rocket Ishmael, Ara Parsegian, Mike Stonebreaker, Chris Zorich, Luther Bradley, Todd Light, Tony Rice, Lawrence Taylor, Dave Casper, Marcus Mariota, Rudy Rudiger, David Tyree. Enter the promo code RADIO and you'll instantly save $50 on any of the ChampionshipFootballs.com autographed footballs. ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am Second Half Chaz. We are checking in on a couple football games. Blackhawk West, could you do us a favor and give us an update on the college game?
Yes, sir. The college game is in a commercial. Last I saw, it was still 9-0. About 7 or 8 minutes to go in the half.
And does your team have the ball?
They're about to.
All right.
Well, yep, John's shaking his head, so he saw something I didn't. I was in the program. I normally I would have a second screen behind me.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, exactly. What about John, the NFL update?
The NFL, I'm going to put on right now. I haven't seen anything. I was actually watching that Virginia game, but yeah, that Virginia game is Virginia's going to get the ball back with about 6-7 minutes left. Cincinnati's kicking, was going to kick a field goal here. But yeah, we'll see how it goes here. 43-yard attempt. They're still in the first quarter. 5 minutes left. 0-0 still, so no score.
Yeah, I'm giving 4 for the first half there. So I'll take any points I can get. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he missed the field goal, so it's still 0-0.
There you go. All right, so let's talk about that college game. You guys need 13 and a half. You got 9. There's about 6 minutes go. They're going to have to go to length of the field, though. Looks like they pinned them back on the 6. So we will check back on both of those games. Before we do that, we're going to talk some college against the spread talk. But first, I want to check in with John. Our buddies were in Vegas last weekend for a poker tournament, so it's been a while for us. We're looking at maybe coming out, John, for the Aztecs game against UNLV because we could then still see the stadium as well,
Oh, yeah. This should be a great game.
So until then, what's now that, it's summer's gone and you're getting into the football season and as fall as you're going to get in Vegas, it's still fall. I mean, I've been in Vegas at night. It's freezing, it's a desert. So what's your weekend this weekend looking like in Las Vegas?
Pretty much just eyeing some college Saturday plays, taking it, little by little, pacing myself there. And then obviously football Sunday. It's all about Sunday, NFL for me. So still relatively nice in Vegas. It just started to cool down. We were in the hundreds. Now it's probably about 80, 85 here. So, I give my AC a break, which is nice. And, I get to open some windows and some doors and let some air in finally,
Yeah, simple pleasure. So in terms of last Sunday, how much time did you spend at the sports book last Sunday?
Last Sunday, I didn't spend that. I had a barbecue to go to for a family member. So I actually didn't spend that. But I usually go in the morning. I'm usually there for anywhere from about a half an hour to maybe an hour or two, depending on what I got going on that day. And if, the family events kind of take over for the day. So we got to see. But I'm usually always in the sports book for at least a half an hour, almost every day, bare minimum.
What percentage of your tickets on NFL Sunday last Sunday were in your pocket, and how much were on your phone?
It was about 50-50. Some I like to do right there in the casino. Some I already put it on my phone a little bit earlier before I got there, just before the line jumped, because I seen it was a good line. So yeah, so it's about 50-50. Back in the day, it used to be all in the sports book. Now it's more trending towards on your phone because it's right there in your hand.
Hey, Blackhawk West, you did your Chicago Sports Options Trader program already for this week?
No, I'm recovering from strep. So yesterday, when we normally record, I was unable to speak very well without pain.
Will you then you will just text them or let them know?
I posted the pics and I've gotten a lot of direct messages, some plays, and in the group there's a lot of messages back and forth about Arkansas, Georgia right now, and I may do a recording now that my voice is recovered later on tonight or at some point tomorrow, just to get them some strategy for this week, because they're jumping on the games that I would advise the group against touching at all.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's easy to do. It's easy to do because whether it's a lot of points or you think it's too little. And you mentioned that with that one game, you'll know right away. And almost always we talk about whenever you're really confused about a point spread line, just wait till the game's over. It'll be clear as a bell. Because the house is very good at what they do. You don't pay those kind of electric bills unless you're really, really smart, All right. So in terms of the plays for the contest, are you guys both already in, or are you still holding off a little?
I'm holding off. I didn't have anything circled for tonight's game, so I'm holding off. I got 2 that I got locked in for sure, which me and Wes kind of talked and we share, and I'm still kind of mulling over the 3. I'll get them locked in tomorrow, the last 3. But I think Wes is all locked in because he has some action as far as circle wise. on the
Well,
Jaguars.
yeah, and one of the things that's nice about the contest is you don't have to rush because the point spread is locked from the minute it gets out. It's not like you have to change.
Exactly. It never changes. So the line you see Thursday is the same line you get right up to when it closes on Saturday afternoon. So it's not like you got to try to rush to beat the line or worry about somebody getting a better line than you. So that helps a little bit. So
Yeah, and the opening line, closing line thing, very seldom in my experience, and I'm old and have checked a lot of data in my time.
Yeah.
Very seldom does the number fall between there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once in a blue moon, but very seldom.
I think there's a major advantage if you're going to do opening to closing line and take advantage will probably be college. But other than that, the NFL really doesn't vary too much as far as I can see. But, in this day and age, like I said, with COVID, I just don't feel comfortable putting in a bet 4 or 5 days before the game starts. That's just me personally.
No, your experience is showing you that, you wake up and your quarterback's out. You wake up and your coach isn't there. Now, the coach, I know if in some organization, the coach matters. In other organizations, the coaches run such a good program that, the guys do what they're supposed to do. They may not be able to do it full time, but they do what they got to do when they need to do it. So that's what a good assistant does,
Yep.
All right, so Blackhawk West. Let's talk about Sunday. No, let's talk about Saturday.
All right.
One play that, I don't use the word lock, but one play that you'd be very surprised if you didn't cash a ticket on.
I threw it out there. I threw it out there. I'd be very surprised if Air Force doesn't cover. We have, as far as the picks that I posted for members, there's 8 college and 1 NFL. I posted my circa plays, but I truly only have cash on 1 NFL game this week. But I would be very surprised if Air Force does not cash the way that they've been playing. There's no trappy situation. There's no hiccup. Their system, there's not really any personnel that's going to hold them up. Their system is designed for anybody that has a heartbeat to have a shot at gaining 5 yards. So be very surprised if Air Force doesn't cash.
All right, so let's look at some of these NCAA perfect teams. There are 4 teams that this year are a combined 16-0 against the spread. Texas San Antonio is one of them. I would have lost that bet. What about Arkansas? You probably knew that because we talked about it. Did you think Rutgers was on there? John, did you know Rutgers is perfect against the spread?
I would have never guessed that. Rutgers, wow. That's good for them. Yeah, I did go against Syracuse, so I know they won that one, but I would have never guessed that one.
They're 3-1 and 4-0 against the spread. One more team. I'm going to give you this. This team is 2-2 Blackhawk West. It's a smaller division, a smaller conference, but they are also perfect against the spread. You want to guess them?
I'm going to guess Cincinnati.
Bowling Green.
Wow.
Bowling Green. All right, let's talk about teams that are under the number. We mentioned one of them, so there's 2, 4, 6, 8 teams here. Not one of their games has gone over. Kent State, North Texas, A&M. A&M might surprise a few people.
Yeah.
I don't think Virginia Tech or Purdue would surprise anybody. Iowa's perfect, 0-4. Bowling Green is on the top of the list. So if you bet Bowling Green in the under this year, you are 4 for 4 in 2-teamers.
There you go. That's a nice parlay.
Yeah, but I would have, very seldom do the words I've got Bowling Green come out of my mouth,
I don't think I've ever watched a game with Bowling Green in it.
Yeah, well, maybe on Tuesdays, right? Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Or like Tuesday game, but last year, but not this year.
Yeah. But as Blackhawk West often says, the numbers don't lie, and the bottom line is if you don't know where to look for the numbers, then you don't know if they're lying or telling the truth, and that's the beauty of having this data. It's right in front of us. It allows us to chop it up and look at it. And when we get to the NFL, I'm just looking at color. So when I get to the NFL and I have to and I open the Easy Sports Data. Now this is available on the Belly Up Fantasy Sports website. It's Easy Sports Data, Easy Sheet. It's just color. So you had said you're locked in on somebody already, John? One team or two teams for the NFL?
Yeah, one team. And I hate to keep beating these guys down every week, but I got to take the Titans versus the Jets. It's hard not to pick whatever team the Jets are playing every week.
Why would you feel bad about that? If they stink, you should make a couple bucks off of them.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna continue to ride that trend until I don't see it anymore. So that's the wagon that I'm on. Is with Tennessee. I know they have obvious injuries at wide receiver possibly going into this weekend, but I'm fine with that. That just means Derrick Henry will just run all over New York this weekend. So I'm perfectly fine with laying the 7 or the 7.5 this weekend against a team that really honestly hasn't shown me anything and any type of positivity moving forward or signs of improvement moving forward. And I'll take the Titans all day long.
In their last 6 road games, Tennessee has scored over 30 points in 5 of 6 of them. Think how many points, 30 points. Think how easy it is to win a football game when you get 30 points. Yeah. It's really hard. Don't get me wrong. In college, it's a whole different animal. But how many NFL teams put up 30 points on any given Sunday? 4, 5 of the 32, maybe?
Oh, yeah. That's on the road, too, so that's impressive.
Yep. All right, your number one NFL Blackhawk, Wes.
Well, I'm locked into the circa already because I like Jacksonville and the plus 7.5. And very rarely do I touch a Thursday night game, but I really liked Cincinnati to just come back down to earth after the false confidence that they got from beating a very bad Pittsburgh team. Pittsburgh's not getting very much quarterback play at all. So Cincinnati, good confidence builder, but now you're going to play on Thursday night against a very good coach. So this game is winning right now, but I like the Panthers. Dallas is one that just hung a whole bunch of points, and they look great doing it, style points and everything else. Dallas looked fantastic, and now they get to play Carolina, who statistically right now is a top 5 defense in the league. And you talk about a coaching duo between Matt Rule and Joe Brady. I mean, they are just coaching some ball, and college doesn't always translate to the pros, but it is working in Carolina. So plus 4.5. I think that the only reason we're getting that number is because of what Dallas just did a couple nights ago.
Well, and part of that is the Carolina, used a very large percentage of the opportunities they had to do something with the ball to give it to Christian McCaffrey.
Well, I think they got a guy named Chuba Hubbard that if you watch a lot of college football, the name Chuba Hubbard means something to you. He's a kid from Canada that played for Oklahoma State, and man, did he put up a lot of points. So it's not like they're going to nothing at the backup. I mean, this guy's got a lot of speed, and he's a body that can just be like a bowling ball at times. So yeah, it's not CMAC, but I think they're still going to find some play and productivity out of that running back position. So that's the only game out of all of college out of all the NFL that I actually have cash on as a baseline pick.
Yeah, you had a winner though, did you not call the half point in the first quarter for Jacksonville because they scored?
Yeah, that one cashed. That was Trevor got the ball from that missed field goal, so he had about a 55-yard field, and they ran it in. Jacksonville looked pretty good, so that game is looking great. It'd be nice to start the circa week 1-0.
Oh, when you win Thursday night, it's really cool. First of all, for the bankroll. Second of all, because you got like 4 days to be happy that you won because you don't play again until Sunday, All right, so before we get out of here, let's do this. Let's get ahead and go to the banners, and we're going to check out John on Instagram, GMF_sports_consultants. We're going to follow Wes on Twitter at 151_sports. Remember, you can always play like the public. Here's the link, bit.ly/cash tickets here. And it really is, I tell you right now, I enjoy my weekends more when we're on the text and giving each other winners and following some of the stuff that we said on the show, because winning is better when you're doing it with more people. There's no doubt about it. It really is that simple. So, all right, before we go, Wes, anything?
No, I mean, always be cashing. You can find me on Chicago Options Trader on the Discord page, chicagooptionstrader.com, and cash some stocks and, always be cashing.
You guys have had some seriously good weeks with some tips in there, and whether it's with the options or crypto, it's really a cool site. How about you, John?
Yeah, no, nothing much else for me. Just getting ready for the weekend. Football. That's about it.
Yeah, it really is. This is the time of year now. We're getting into some baseball. We'll have some baseball games on here.
Yeah,
Thursday nights.
We're kind of winding down the wild card. We'll pick up the wild card games. I love just the feel of MLB playoff games, the intensity. I mean, even if you're watching on TV, you could just feel the energy that's going on. There's one of those few things, maybe NCAA tournament. But man, MLB playoffs is coming, so that'll be next week. So we'll start getting into MLB playoff action next week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it'll be fun to do some live action on the show with that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're out of here. Again, the Loudmouths will not be following us like normally on Thursdays, and we're not going to have a to be determined Saturday because something happened and we ain't having it. So, but I will do some texting out with the plays from Saturdays in Canada, as well as the soccer talk with Hector. I am second half Chaz. Always be cashing.